What's good, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today the editor is out to attend a wedding, so you're gonna have to bear with an unedited video. Thankfully the image looks pretty good out of camera, but I'm not gonna waste too much time. Let's get into the trade setup for today on Bitcoin. Now, just to kick things off, yesterday ended up being a no trade. As you can see, like on the daily chart, there is nowhere as evident as on the daily chart, where yesterday ended up being an inside bar, which means even though we were targeting the previous daily high yesterday, we just ended up not going for the daily high or the daily low, and we got an inside bar, which goes to show you that yesterday was incredibly choppy. If you just take a look at the price action, basically it went opposite the direction that we were calling for, and also like there ended up not being a CISD towards the bullish side, even though the relative equal lows were taken out. All of this was publicly called on Twitter, so if you would like to follow along some of the trade updates, feel free to follow me on Twitter. But otherwise, let's make myself smaller because I am definitely not the focus of this video. And let's get to the Bitcoin trade for today. Now, kicking things off, we have a bullish daily bias. Keep in mind that we are still dealing with this fair value gap over here on the daily chart, which means that by the time that we get into the fair value gap, we are going to be looking for a short, because overall on the daily chart, we are pretty bearish in terms of like that's a CISD over depth towards the bearish direction. And yes, we are at a bullish order block right now, but momentum seems to be pointing towards the downside. And so we're not going to be looking for any longs on the swing trading perspective until most likely much later. But for now, the intraday trade for today should still be towards the long side. But before we do that, let's get into a bit of news, because it's good to understand where or what time is the news and what news we have before we dive into the trade, because news is a huge catalyst when it comes to price action, and when you have news versus when you don't is a huge difference. Also, news again is a catalyst for volatility, which means that if we're able to focus our trading at a specific time window, it saves us time from needing to look at the charts and wasting time. B, in that time that we're looking at the charts, we're just going to be exhausting ourselves because, well, there's not going to be much volatility if there is no reason for there to be volatility. And so 3, this also increases the probability of the overall system that we are using. No, not now, Siri. It increases the overall probability of the system that we're using here. And right off the get-go, we can see that we have news at 9:45 a.m., which means the ideal trading window for today is going to be an hour before news to the hour after news. So ideal trading window, 8:30 to about 11 a.m. And that is going to be the time when whatever that I'm going to look for on the charts later, chances are it's going to happen at around that time. And if it does happen at around that time, guess what? You have an A+ setup on your hands. Of all of this will definitely be updated on Twitter, so feel free to follow me at Twitter. Link is in the description box below. I post all of my live trades over there for absolutely free of charge, not gated behind some signals group or whatever. But anyways, just kick things off, we have a bullish daily bias, and so we're looking for a long. So far on the 1 hourly time frame, we are going to look for either liquidity levels or PD arrays that we can use to take advantage of any such longs. And right off the get-go, I can see that there is no such PD array. Maybe we have a liquidity level over here, and maybe we have a fair value gap down here. Now, I do expect this low to get swept before the time that we get to news, mainly because if we were to just pump from this point onwards, we might have left behind some sort of relative equal low. Oh, not really, actually. It's just at the 0.705. All right, I take my words back. So there is a possibility that the liquidity level could be taken out, and then you might fill in this fair value gap before some sort of upside move. The second scenario that could happen is that by the time you get towards the news window, you may already get some sort of a CISD. In this case, the level to watch for is going to be $89,500. If you get a candle close on a 1 hourly chart before news above this level, then that kind of gives you a early CISD, where you can take advantage of some sort of a upwards movement where prior resistance can be broken and then treated or flipped into support. Now that's scenario number 2. As for which one is going to happen, well, only time will tell. It's hard for me to predict that price is not going to go all the way down to 88,500 and sweep that level out before going to the upside. In fact, it's not my job either as a trader, believe it or not. Like, as traders, we are oftentimes misled into thinking that it's our job to know exactly what the market's going to do next. When in reality, it's more of a game of reading and reacting, right? Planning out a couple of high probability scenarios, planning out the day, and then depending on if A or B hits, well, we already have a game plan for A, we have a game plan for B, and at the end of the day, it's more of a game of reading and reacting compared to predicting. That is trading in a nutshell. But so far, just keep in mind that that is going to be the minimum kind of signal that we want to see before we jump into longs. If that happens, that means that, these couple of relatively equal lows over here have been swept. Prices came back to the 0.705 within this trading range right here, and that will be an optimal trading setup. Only problem is, even if, the price breaks above that level, just keep in mind that this is still prior resistance, right? This is a bearish order block over here. But overall, definitely looking a little bit messy. I expect as we get closer to news, we're going to get much more, let's say, neat, or at least price action that feels a little bit more clear. At least for now, you could make an argument that, you have gotten a CIC towards the downside. You could also make an argument that, oh yeah, because the daily bias is bullish, we are going to look for a bullish trade. Anything's possible today. I'll definitely keep you guys posted on Twitter. And I wish I did not have to give that answer. There are many days where I'm able to just give you the call right here on the video. And there are days where I'm unable to. And out of the responsibility that I have towards you guys, making sure that I'm not giving any wrong calls and making sure that I'm being as cautious as possible, because this video is not just for me, right? I'm able to adapt to the markets, but an absolute beginner is 32. Watching this, you need a little bit more than that, and more above anything else, right? You need some sort of, just understand that I feel responsible for your success or losses, and I do not make calls lightly. But otherwise, there is a chance that, you do not get that CIC towards the outside, in which case you're probably going to get rejected off of this order block right here. And instead of looking at a potential Asia accumulation, London manipulation, followed by New York distribution towards the direction of the daily bias, we may end up with instead a Asia, London breaks below Asia, trades below Asia, New York, continuation back down to target these lows. And I know that is going to be against the daily bias, but I'm just saying that is a very likely scenario if we do not get any sort of bullishness, or at least any sort of bullish confirmation on the 1 hourly chart. So just be prepared for that possibility. And if we go down into the 5-minute chart, and you'll see exactly what I mean. That's the Asia. London so far has been trading the majority of it. Like the majority of volume and time in London has been below the Asia lows. So that leads me to believe that we could potentially be looking at some sort of a accumulation breakout and then retrace continuation for New York. So I will definitely update that as we get closer and closer to news. But then next we move into Ethereum, and Ethereum is definitely on a bearish bias, so we could potentially be looking for a short here, and Ethereum is so clearly not looking great in terms of longs. If you take a look here, you already have a CISD. Now, besides that, you also have a bearish order block that you could retrace into. And so I think the setup for Ethereum is, I rarely say this, but just purely based off of the fact that, on Ethereum, the moment I hop into the chart, it's immediately clear to me that, hey, but this is probably a bearish setup, and we can make the argument immediately. Like, we don't have to kind of like, oh, is it going to be bullish? Oh, is it going to be bearish? And this is a pro tip, by the way. If you got, if you're newer to trading, one of the most telltale signs that you will have when it comes to, all right, is today an A+ day? Is this a really good setup, or is this a subpar setup? Is how quickly is it evident that, hey, we're looking at the setup versus you have to spend a few minutes like kind of rationalizing, kind of like debating against yourself, like, oh, is this long, is this short? In moments like that, could be a little warning sign that things are not as clear as you think. And when that happens, it's perfectly fine to just sit that one out. So today I might even say that Ethereum is looking a lot more clear compared to Bitcoin. So basically, as we get closer and closer to the news window, if we do not get that 1 hourly break above that level that I talked about on Bitcoin just now, I would just focus my attention to going short on Ethereum. The 2 levels to watch is definitely this big order block over here, which you can further narrow down to this smaller order block, and you can also have this smaller family gap over there, all of which coincides with that overall larger order block. And in terms of target, I think we are going to target 28.64 because that is the previous swing low, as well as this one right here. So just keep in mind that Ethereum so far, setup is pretty clear. And as you get closer to the news window, all you're going to want to look for is price to A, have already touched this level, at B, give you a 5-minute change in state of delivery towards the downside. If that happens, brilliant. That's going to be the setup for today. And lastly, next, moving to Solana. Solana, we have a bearish daily buy so far, and in terms of the setup, yep, like you definitely got an ACISD, very much similar to Ethereum, and a couple of setups over here is going to be these couple of order blocks. So, as well as this one, like all of this is resistance until proven otherwise, and to prove this otherwise, Solana and Ethereum will need to close above that bearish resistance. But overall, Solana and ETH looking much more clear than the Bitcoin, which is pretty rare. So I'll definitely focus on both of those for a short. And I will definitely focus on Bitcoin if and only if bullish and we break above that level, kind of close. If we get that, then Bitcoin. Otherwise, you're in Solana. And guys, I will see you on Twitter later. And yeah, hope you enjoyed this no edit video. And yeah, I'll see you later. Ciao, ciao.